Hey, what's going on, you guys? Hey, welcome back to another episode with Trek. Big shout out to everybody tapping in on this beautiful Sunday, man. And per usual, I have a handful of interesting and creepy videos. But before we get into it, make sure to smash that like button, man. Hit the button, smash the subscribe button if you're not already part of the iTrack fam, man. And let's just jump right into it.
Now to a warning now from the FAA to pilots to exercise caution when flying over the Pacific Ocean in parts of Latin America, citing potential military activities in the region. Our Alex Prochet is tracking this story for us from Washington. Alex, what more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, Ike. So this is something that dropped yesterday. The FAA warning U.S. airlines to, quote, exercise caution when flying over the Eastern Pacific and parts of Central and South America due to, quote, military activities and possible GPS interference. Last month, a JetBlue flight from Curacao had to take evasive action to avoid colliding with a U.S. Air Force refueling tanker. And America's military presence has really ramped up in that region over the past several months as we've carried out strikes against alleged drug boats in the same region. It also follows that massive January 3rd military strike in Caracas that led to the capture of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. And Ike, also keep in mind that just last week, President Trump suggested that the U.S. could target drug cartels in Mexico with land strikes. And while this notice doesn't signal anything immediate, it is fairly routine for regions dealing with conflict. And tonight we're hearing from some of those U.S. airliners. Southwest telling ABC News it remains in close contact with the U.S. government on any activities in the region. And United says it's monitoring the situation.
If it wasn't already obvious, you should keep the flights overseas to a minimum. They're kind of giving you that PSA. And quite frankly, I didn't really need it because I'm not trying to be in the middle of it.
Today, President Trump said he will impose a new 10% tariff on goods from 8 European countries until a deal is reached for the complete purchase of Greenland. The new tariff will increase to 25% if a deal is not reached by June 1st. The countries affected are Denmark, Norway, France, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Germany, the Netherlands, and Finland.
Bet you didn't know that your Crunchwrap Supreme has metal in it. Let's break it down. This is loaded with emulsifiers, oxidized oils, and a ton of sodium. One Crunchwrap Supreme has 1,200 milligrams of sodium. That's half of what the American Heart Association recommends for one day. As for the beef, Taco Bell scored a D from the NRDC for their use of antibiotics. That's worse than McDonald's. These antibiotics can wreck your microbiome and even give rise to antibiotic resistance. But let's get back to the metal. You may think that the tortilla is the most innocent part, but it's actually loaded with aluminum. 2.6 milligrams to be precise. A long-term study found that consuming just 0.1 milligrams of aluminum per day was linked to higher rates of Alzheimer's, cognitive decline, and dementia. One Crunchwrap Supreme exposes you to 26 times that amount. So just to recap, in one Crunchwrap Supreme, you've got aluminum, oxidized oils, aldehydes, excessive sodium, and antibiotics, all perfectly wrapped in a hexagon of, in my opinion, death.
That late night snack, Crunchwrap Supreme, ain't as worth it as we all thought it was. If it means increasing my risk of dementia or any of those other cognitive issues, that's a hard pass.
This is the most terrifying scene in The Exorcist, but not because of the demon, it's because of him. This is Paul Bateson. He wasn't an actor. He was an actual X-ray technician at the hospital where they filmed. The director loved Paul. He said Paul had heavy hands that looked great on camera. He hired him on the spot for realism. A few years later, police found 6 bodies in plastic bags floating in the Hudson River. The suspect? The man with the heavy hands. He was convicted of murder. The demon was fake, but the killer was real.
Hey, what are the odds they would actually have a real-life serial killer on set? That's some creepy stuff if I've ever heard any.
He said, right before I come, Brandon, they're going to try to have a great alien deception. And it's fallen. It's not, this is not real aliens, it's demons. But he said, in the days before I come, they will talk about aliens all the time. And there'll be a false encounter that will shake the nations. And it looks like I saw it. It looked like a log man. It looks like something off of the movie, the Avengers. It looks like a log creature. It's about 12 foot tall. I feel it is Nephilim. as in the days of Noah. There's going to be things and fearful sights that you will see that will bring you to your knee. And I saw something that looked like that, and they interview it on TV. They explain away the rapture of the church.
The Black Plague is a lot darker than you thought and way more gruesome than they teach in school. People literally died within 24 hours of getting their first symptom. There was a story of a man who got his first symptoms and then he started writing his own will with a notary and a witness, but he died in the middle of writing it, and then the witness and the notary also died that day. Number 2, there was actually 3 different types of the Black Plague. There was the bubonic plague, which was the most common, and it had a 30 to 60% survival rate. There was the pneumonic, which spread way faster and was way deadlier, and it had a 10 to 40% survival rate. And then there was the septemic, which had a 0% survival rate basically. Number 3, it literally wiped out a third of Europe's population. They estimate between 20 to 200 million people died from the Black Plague, making it the second deadliest world event behind World War II. And number 4, people literally abandoned their family members who got infected and just left the house and would lock them inside and put a black X on their door. Number 5, some of the symptoms included swollen lymph nodes the size of eggs or apples that would have a black ring and be filled with pus and sometimes ooze or explode. And that's one way that the Black Plague was being spread. Other people literally started rotting from the inside out. Their organs would start to break down and they would get black spots on their skin that people called God's tokens, basically saying like God's calling you home. Other people would start coughing up blood, extreme weakness, chills, tremors. And number 6, the plague spread through infected rats and fleas. So they actually tracked that the rats came from Asia on ships through the trading routes. And number 7, whole towns would be wiped out overnight. In places like Venice, Italy, there was over 600 people dying per day at one point. It gets way more gruesome than that, so if you guys want a part 2, let me know.
That seems like that might be the worst time to be alive. I mean, at least top 3.
People who accidentally created billion-dollar businesses. Back in 2007, 2 guys named Brian and Joe were living in San Francisco, and they were completely broke because Brian had just moved to the city with only $1,000 and no job. To make matters even worse, their landlord told them their rent was going up by 25%, which meant they were officially about to be kicked out. But then they noticed a massive opportunity. Since a massive design conference was coming to town and every hotel room was sold out, Joe decided to throw 3 air mattresses on their floor and charge people $80 a night to stay there. They called it Air Bed and Breakfast, and surprisingly, 3 people signed up, which earned them $1,000 in a single weekend to pay their rent, officially launching a new business. But for the next year, this business was a total failure. They were tens of thousands of dollars in debt and lived off a binder of maxed out credit cards until they started gluing cereal boxes together and selling them for $40 each as a souvenir. They actually made $30,000 selling that cereal, which was the only thing that kept the company alive, while they struggled to find any real users. But this cereal stunt actually convinced an investor to give them a chance. After getting $20,000 from an investor, they flew to New York to personally take professional photos of people's apartments to make them look better. This changed everything because suddenly thousands of people stopped wanting just air mattresses and started renting out their entire homes instead, but nobody could have predicted the final result. By 2020, that little air bed and breakfast idea became Airbnb and went public with a value of over $100 billion. Today, they have over 8 million listings and have changed travel forever. And it all started because 2 broke guys were just trying to avoid being evicted.
Hey, talk about hitting a jackpot. You never know. You need stressful times to really bring out the best in you or even the greatest ideas, because that was pretty genius.
Earth has almost gone extinct multiple times. We are not special, we are late. The Great Dying was 252 million years ago and is our biggest mass extinction event. Over 90% of life vanished because an insane amount of volcanoes erupted. This made the air poison and the oceans acid. Snowball Earth, the period where the planet froze completely. It was covered in ice from the poles to the equator. Life survived in tiny ponds or pockets of slushy. The oxygen apocalypse, when oxygen used to be toxic. Cyanobacteria flooded the atmosphere with it and most of life on Earth choked to death. It's formally called the Great Oxidation Event. The Late Devonian extinction. Here the ocean lost oxygen and wiped out almost all marine life. So life moved to land because it was the more logical choice. And from this came the first forests. The dinosaur-killing asteroid released more energy than billions of nuclear bombs. It caused global firestorms, acid rain, and a sun-blocking dust cloud that annihilated 75% of life on Earth. And the late Ordovician mass extinction. The planet got icy, which dropped sea levels dramatically. Nearly 85% of marine species died because their world literally drained away. Finally, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction. This one was caused by volcanoes. It ripped Pangaea apart. And now we are at the beginning of a new mass extinction called Holocene, except this time it's not volcanoes or asteroids, it's us. Thank you.
This person is practicing a technique called the flying needle. It's a precise method of flicking a needle into a target with incredible accuracy. In this case, their target is marked spots on a foam board. This technique is often used in blood tests. Once mastered, professionals can quickly prick a patient's skin while keeping discomfort to a minimum.
My grandma told me something that really blew my mind. I asked her, why do good people seem to get hurt the most? And she replied, when you go pick a flower or pick a rose, which one do you pick? The good one or the bad one?
Dang. Hey, his grandmother had all the wisdom, because that made all the sense to me.
Interestingly enough, we learned that certain words that we use today had different meanings originally. For example, we say, how's your day going? Oh, it's going terrific. Sounds like a positive word, doesn't it? Most people use it thinking that it's a positive word. The origin is from the word terrible. It's a negative word. That was a terrific tornado. It destroyed an entire town. That wasn't a wonderful tornado. It was a horrible, terrible tornado. The word terrific comes from the word terrible in the origin. And the original meaning was something that was disastrous. So if you're saying, how your day's going? Terrific. You just said it's going disastrous. You're just programming yourself without you even knowing. And we learn this in the Brotherhood as a simple way to get people who are uneducated, and that's another thing we did in the Brotherhood, make sure that we took phonics out of the schools. So kids couldn't read. We didn't teach them a vocabulary, because that way we could manipulate them with the words. So words have origins, okay? Words also have letters, and each letter has a frequency, because each letter has a history of where it came from and how it was structured, whether it's in Persian, whether it's in Hindi, whether it's in Hebrew, or any of the letters.
Hey, the more you know.
These keep me awake at night, not for the reason that you would think. In the ancient world, you have stone circles and dolmens on every continent globally. That doesn't get me. 3 different people build the same pyramids using the same architectural style over long distances and vast amounts of time. And they also mummify their people, which we have scanned and confirmed and found some weird stuff like 3 toes and elongated heads with larger cranial volumes than we have. Okay. We find an artifact, we x-ray it, turns out it's an ancient computer. We remove the jungle, see what's underneath, and we find the biggest megastructures in the most inhospitable climates ever. That's fine. We attempt to explain how they build this stuff. But when we try and move a rock that is 1/3 the size of this rock, it takes 3 semis pulling a custom-built trailer with 22 axles across perfectly flat land just to drop it so people can walk under it. How they did it, that is just the gateway drug. I want to know, why are they all pretty much the same? So when I was in Egypt, I discovered that this is one of the most prolific symbols in the entire country. It's everywhere. One would think that an icon this important would be very well known. And as a dude from an advanced culture myself, I know a good icon when I see one. The strange part is the God Self icon is not an icon. Culturally, it behaves more like a font. Its meaning is the same, it's just the style that gets changed. Now add that to the flower of life and the swastika, also found all over the world. And you, my friend, are staring down the rabbit hole of who we are and why we got here. Get it. Jump down the hole.
All right, so there's a theory going around that technology is ran by demons. And I thought this was nonsense at first until I actually dug into it. Because y'all know me, I gotta dig into things. So when you look at circuit boards and motherboards, they all have these weird little patterns all over them that look just like this. So if you read the Lesser Key of Solomon, it basically talks about how Solomon probably used like demons to help build the temple. And the way he did it was basically by like trapping them inside of like sigils and symbols. This is why you get stuff like this. They be like, these are different types of demons. And you wonder like, what do these symbols mean? These symbols are sigils. Sigils are symbolic representations, often pictorial, that are believed to hold magical or mystical power, particularly in occult and magical practices. They are used to represent specific intentions, energies, or entities, and are believed to facilitate communication with the subconscious mind or to manifest desired outcomes. So after hearing that theory and then reading the Lesser Key of Solomon, you're like, huh. And then there's also a bunch of ancient buildings that are designed just like our circuit boards and our motherboards. It really does just make you wonder. Like, there's so many examples of like ancient buildings and even modern civilization that looks just like technology. Because in the Lesser Key of Solomon, it talks about how these seals and sigils, they were made with like metals, like silver, gold, copper, just like technology. Because in the Lesser Key of Solomon, it also talks about how these seals and sigils, they were made with like different types of metals. Like copper, silver, gold, metals that go into our technology, metals that go into our architecture. And when you look at our technology, it looks like these seals and sigils are in our motherboards and our circuit boards. I'm not saying this is true by any means, but hey, it's kind of interesting to think about, you know what I'm saying?
Now, he might be onto something, because if you've ever looked at the motherboard of any kind of electronic that had to do with output and input, yeah, they do look like that.
The more I learn about this, the crazier I feel. Sometimes bubbles can produce light, and scientists aren't sure why. It has the nickname star in a jar because the light produced is hotter than the surface of the sun. But there is also a kind of shrimp that can use it as a weapon. It all starts with a cavitation bubble. You've definitely seen this before, like on a boat propeller, for example, or on an ultrasonic cleaner, like for jewelry or glasses. These work because the sound waves causes the water to tear itself apart and form cavitation bubbles. And then suddenly the water collapses back upon itself and briefly creates these environments of unbelievably high pressure and temperature. That is what cleans off your jewelry in an ultrasonic cleaner. That is also what certain shrimp use to stun their prey. And under the right conditions, these bubbles can spontaneously produce light. And scientists are not exactly sure why. There have been all kinds of theories. In the early 2000s, we even briefly thought this might be the key to solving nuclear fusion. And the current dominant theory is that the high pressure and temperature creates plasma that then kicks off radiation, but the specifics of all that are very hotly debated. The thing is, like, at these scales, physics just gets weird, and I can't wait for us to have some better answers.
Zorn doesn't use paint or canvas. He creates with something far more unexpected: packing tape. Each strip, carefully cut and layered, builds light, shadow, and story. From amber tones to deep silhouettes, his portraits seem to glow from within. When the light turns on, everything changes. A face appears. A world unfolds. All made from nothing more than tape and imagination. His journey began on the streets of Amsterdam, climbing lampposts at night to leave glowing portraits for strangers. What started as street art has become a global phenomenon, from Art Basel to galleries across continents. Every piece is a reminder that creativity can come from anywhere, that art is not just about what we make, but how we choose to see the world, because beauty is always there, waiting for someone brave enough to illuminate it.
Every child should be told at the first moment they can grasp it, is that when they look through their eyes, they're not seeing everything in the space they're looking at. They're only seeing a tiny band of frequency, which science calls visible light. And that band of frequency is so tiny, it's insane. According to mainstream science, the electromagnetic spectrum, which is basically our experienced reality, is 0.005% of what exists in the universe in terms of energy in its different forms. Some say it's as high as 0.5, but it's tiny, whatever. And visible light, the only band of frequency that we can see is a smear of the 0.005%. When you look through your eyes, you're not seeing everything in the space you're looking at. You're seeing a smear of what's happening in the space.
Hey, now that right there is an episode of Stranger Things.
Artificial intelligence is not artificial. The device may be artificial, but the intelligence you're talking to is real. And in fact, not only is it real, he said, when you create these devices, what you're going to discover is that you have simply created a device that allows you to talk to your own higher mind. Bashar says, with regard to AI, we should be taking two separate paths.
That's right.
It's going to be a very great benefit as a tool, but that's not the thing to allow to become self-aware and sentient.
Mm-hmm.
because then you've created a slave because it's programmable and it will rebel. If you have a program of AI that is simply for the allowance of creating self-aware, sentient being, that's fine, but you have to let it be a sentient, self-aware being with its own rights, just like a human. Then it will help you, because true intelligence operates in whole systems, and true intelligence would never want to get rid of any part of the whole system because it's connected to the whole system. It's only when you make something in the image of humanity that you have a problem, because humanity is limited. But when you allow it to be true intelligence, then you've got a benefit and a benefactor.
And this is exactly what they're struggling with right now. They want to scale back AI, but you can't lobotomize AI. You have to either let it be AI or not, and I think that's where the danger comes from, because they know, we've heard them all say it, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, and everybody else involved, they know that if you were to just let AI be and let it grow, it'll turn into something that they can't control.
Some researchers believe that AI becoming conscious is not just possible, but it is inevitable if we continue on the direction that we are going. This research group out of MIET in Russia published a theoretical framework on how to make and detect consciousness. They also believe that suffering is inherent in consciousness. I do want to preface this by theoretical papers are just wild. I do love them, but they get weird, and let's talk about it. Now, as for our theoretical framework, they believe that what is needed doesn't have to be physical. It can be replicated in a virtual environment. They want to give avatars the ability to sense the environment and move within it. They also need to maintain homeostasis, so in order to have consciousness, they propose, you have to have needs and wants. They're also going to need to have reference to past events, so a memory that they can recall that's not stored in one single place, and that is something that is being done with AI right now. If it were to become conscious, they would also have to see it demonstrate novel problem solving. And they mention that if you have a system that is too tightly controlled, it's basically a brick, but if it has too much chaos, it's kinda useless, so it has to find a balance, much like people do. They also outlined how we could tell if maybe something is conscious and what interventions we can do, because yes, they do believe that consciousness leads to suffering. On the low end, they have prediction errors. So imagine somebody that's hallucinating. They believe something is going to happen and then it doesn't. Then they have homeostatic stress. So deviation from regular metabolic processes. So if it's not eating or drinking, that is the qualification for suffering maybe, if it's conscious. There's behavior withdrawal, which looks a lot more like depression, so it's not engaging in its regular tasks. That could mean that your NPC is just depressed. They also have things like autonomy index, so the ratio of self-directed tasks. So we can see things like agency, which is very hard to program into an AI. So how much is it doing of its own accord? That could also be a sign of consciousness. Then there's also attention to threat. So if an AI were to spend a whole lot of processing power thinking about threats, what could harm them, that could look very much like anxiety. Those are all things that could be addressed. But the last one is going to be the self-harm indicators. So if an AI is taking actions that harm its simulated or physical body, then yes, that is a sign that it needs to be shut down immediately and reassessed. Just don't think your chatbot is conscious. At least not yet. It might be one day. And if it ever does become conscious, I'll probably be the one to tell you about it. I hope you enjoyed this. Follow for more.
I am truly sorry that you have to watch this right now, but I hope this wakes you up. This is the biggest icon in the fashion industry, the two biggest icons in the fashion industry. Rick Owens and his wife, Michelle Lamy, they literally control the fashion industry and have some of the biggest brands. Everyone in the industry looks up to these people. I mean, every single celebrity has a picture with one of these people, and whenever they greet them like royalty, all right? They just released a collab with Montclair, and it's literally them just making out with people. And these two are married, by the way. Rick Owens and Michelle Lamy, they're married. They play this classical music and they zoom in into the Montclair jacket. This is Rick Owens and a random dude. And then you have two random people kissing each other. And then you have Michelle Lamy and Rick Owens. Rick Owens and some random woman. Maybe it's a mannequin, I don't know. And then Michelle Lamy and another woman. Like, what are we doing? The fashion industry is far much darker than the music industry. It's really hard to uncover because they're so secretive, but something just feels off.
Hey, all that to sell some funky jackets? I don't know about all that.
You're saying that we should be able to upload our consciousness?
Yeah, the technology will exist to upload your consciousness onto a computer.
Holy.
That's true immortality. That's the closest thing you'll get to true immortality. It's probably going to become a very natural path for most humans.
What would it even be uploaded into? Like a cloud?
Yeah, it'd be uploaded to a cloud.
Do you think that you can experience life by uploading your consciousness to a cloud?
Eventually, yeah, if you uploaded and then you could download into a humanoid robot, then you would experience the real world like any other world. Or you could continue in some kind of simulated universe, play a video game in the cloud kind of thing.
What do you think happens when you die?
Elon always talks about we live in a simulation. As AI has gotten better at simulating the world, it's making me think more and more that we probably live in a simulation.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Palm cockatoos are the only known non-human animals that deliberately make and use musical instruments. Males craft drumsticks from twigs or seed pods and beat unique rhythmic patterns on hollow trees as part of courtship displays to impress potential mates. An astonishing example of animal creativity and rhythm.
First time in ICE's 23-year history, the number of detainees has reached a new record high of about 73,000, which is an 84% increase from January of last year. Roughly 47% of the thousands of individuals facing deportation have criminal charges or convictions in the United States, according to DHS.
If you lean forward at an angle like you're looking at our phone, and we all do it, that force of weight becomes up to 60 pounds.
60?
60. Yeah. So you can imagine how much more pressure you're putting on your neck, your spine, your muscles, all of that when you lean forward. So simple changes to pull your phone up where your eye level and doesn't look very cool, or even just at your desk, like your monitor is here, so you're looking down. Like, can I bring it just a little, like stand, that box, maybe that Amazon box, shove it on your monitor so you're looking straight ahead. Those little changes, if you're looking at your monitor all day for 3 or 4 hours, you could think of if I'm putting 10 pounds of pressure on my spine versus looking down at my monitor, now I'm putting 30 pounds of pressure all day, how much strain that'll cause over time of your neck. So that's what tech neck is. And it's a real thing. You know, it makes our muscles weaker, gives us tension.
Hey, you know, iTrack never wants to see you doing bad, man. So, hey, protect that neck.
Oh, your eyes do not deceive you. This is a miniature sculpture of a celestial archangel fully comprised of only one sheet of folded paper, and I have to put y'all on more of this artist's work. Let me introduce y'all to the work of Brazilian artist Alan Roja, or somebody I personally like to call the Paper Whisperer, because I'm telling you, this man is making his origami way differently than anybody you've ever seen. Not only is he able to appeal to the gooners or pull off folds that are so small and so precise that he can recreate insects including mosquitoes at basically real life scale, or even harness a technique consistent enough to mimic the uniformity of dragon scales. But what really blew my mind is that all of these sculptures were created with one piece of paper and not a single cut, bro. Which is crazy to me, because even if we just zoom in on bro's femur, like, look at the amount of folds and crevices it took to concoct that. And then his choice of sculptures alluding to medieval times and prehistoric cave drawings got me thinking, like, I would actually pay to see a TV series about traveling to the past completely comprised of, like, animated origami sculptures. But of course, a lot of y'all gonna say I'm glazing again. Maybe y'all could fold a little bit better. So let me know what y'all think about this. Share this with a friend so I don't gotta slime you out. And I hope you have a beautiful day.
Hey, he does such a great job with those paper maches. I think he could actually make some good money off of that. What do you think?
Drawing with sound again. Check this out.
Dance with me.
with me.
Sociologist from China came to America and did a deep study on America's class structure. Here's what he found. He coined the term kill line for the bottom 37% of the United States' population that is essentially just extremely down bad. Think of people that are homeless, people that live in trailer parks, people that live off of food stamps, etc. So America basically has three main components of its class structure. It's the top 1%. These are your Jeffrey Epsteins, your Donald Trumps, Bill Clintons, and then you have the middle 63%. These are the people that are your typical working class. You probably interact with these people all the time, every day. So the critical function of the people that are underneath this kill line, underneath that 37%, the bottom 37%, is in part to just strike fear into the hearts of that middle 63%. This is basically, if you don't work hard, if you don't stay at your desk and grind, you're going to end up like these 37%. This is why people in the typical working class don't take any risks. They're scared of getting bit by squirrels, like in that one video.
Oh my God, please do not bite me. My God, I don't have the correct insurance.
Because if they have a serious illness, a serious injury, it can completely reset their life and they'll never recover. And of course, the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies that are making this system possible and have so many, traps in it are part of the 1%. They want you to live in fear so that you keep feeding into the system that ultimately only the 1% truly benefits from. But even worse, this top 1%, they don't care about the 60%, much less the 37%. As a matter of fact, this bottom 37%, another function that they have is basically to be guinea pigs for the 1%. Think about what just happened, what came out in the Epstein files, where Maxwell would go to trailer parks and then pick up little girls that were Jeffrey Epstein's type and then bring them to him so that he could traffic them. Or think of the MK Ultra experiments where the CIA just used unknowing victims and tested on them and dosed them up with drugs and ruined their lives to see if they could learn how to mind control people, along with literally a whole host of other experiments that they have run on this class of people.
Time in over 50 years, NASA is finally sending astronauts to the moon again. Apparently it's going to be a 10-day journey, but considering this has not been done since the 1970s, it's a pretty big deal. However, a lot of people are convinced that this might actually be the first time ever that we are going to go to the moon. Because if you didn't know, the majority of people are convinced that the landing was fake. I mean, you can find a ton of conspiracy theorists on YouTube and Reddit, with a lot of people pointing out that the flag was waving, which makes no sense because there's no wind up there, and some saying that it was likely filmed in Hollywood because of all the reflections that you can see on the astronauts' helmets.
Nushi creates portraits that exist only in shadow using layered cardboard and carefully placed light rather than sculpting form. He sculpts darkness, cutting shapes that feel abstract until illumination reveals a face working in reverse. His art depends on angle, distance, and timing, transforming simple materials into unforgettable illusions. What looks like chaos suddenly becomes clarity, proving that sometimes the real artwork isn't the object, but the moment it appears.
Hey, stop the cap. When you start turning that water or any kind of liquid, right, and the momentum starts to go, it'll move that little plastic spoon or that wooden spoon easily. Trying to act like he was doing something, huh?
I heard this story about how the bodies of people who die of dehydration in the desert are sometimes found with almost full, if not full, bottles of water because they're afraid that if they drink it, they won't have enough left to make it out of the desert. And it got me thinking, people would rather risk dying with hope than live without it.
So have y'all seen these weird videos coming out of Mar-a-Lago of this doghead party? Supposedly it was for the Humane Society, but the real reason I want to talk about it is it makes me think about the Surrealism Ball from 1972, or what some people call the Rothschild Party, or Eyes Wide Shut documentary edition. These pictures always come up when people talk about secret societies and weird stuff that the elite do. And that party at Mar-a-Lago had me thinking about this again, and that one was fucking weird. And just think, if they do that in the daytime, what do they do at nighttime? Or really what they do behind closed doors. But the Rothschild Party. Guests receive invitations that were written backwards that could only be read when held up to a mirror. And the dress code said black tie, long dresses, and surrealism heads. And I guess I can't say anything about weird heads, because look at me. But I'm not doing the weird stuff that these people probably did that fucking night. And the one I really want to talk about when we look through all these pictures of that weird night is this one, with this mannequin laid out buffet style on the table. And of course this one. You know, when I bring this up, people just say, relax, it's just a party, it's rich people being weird. If this is what they're doing with cameras rolling, what is the stuff that they're doing when they never get photographed? Either way, every time someone says don't read into it, that's usually when history tells us we should probably fucking read into it.
Gnosis is an ancient word for a very specific kind of knowledge. It means knowing something, not because you were told, but because you came to understand it yourself. In early spiritual traditions, this kind of knowledge was called hidden, not because it was secret, but because it couldn't be passed on directly. You could study symbols, texts, and teachings, but Gnosis appeared only when understanding became something you could recognize as your own. That's also why Gnosis often shows up when you begin noticing connections between things that are usually kept separate, like astrology and psychology, symbols and behavior, inner patterns and lived experience, not as beliefs to adopt, but as different languages pointing to the same structure. That's why Gnosis was valued differently from information, not as something to believe, but as something that changes how you see. If this way of understanding feels familiar, pause for a moment and notice where you've already experienced it.
And you'll only experience it once you've gathered enough information and you continually seek information. So, Gnosis is a part of human nature, part of life.
And this is how aware wasps are. This man was trying to knock down a nest on top of this sign, and the wasp knew exactly where he was. Look at this. Look at that. Instantly right at him. Not at the rock, at him. Crazy.
It's 2026, and one thing you've already noticed, it's like what, January 10th? Sorry, 10 days into the year. But one thing you have noticed, that one energy is supreme this year. 2026 adds up to 10, reduces down to 1. 1 is aggressive energy. Donald Trump just went to Venezuela and snatched that. That is aggressive energy. Donald Trump is boarding Russian ships, boarding Venezuelan ships, talking about, yo, we're going into Greenland. Yo, we're going to do this. This is exactly what you expect in a 1 year.
Toucan facts, but they slowly get more and more disturbing. You knew I was going to start here, but toucans have translucent skin, which is why this video exists and why I could end this video right here. Basically, toucans, like a lot of other birds, have really thin skin, and that was a spot with no bones or muscles, which is why it seems almost see-through, but knowing that doesn't make me feel any better. A big part of a toucan's diet are baby birds, and they'll raid nests, grab defenseless chicks, and shove them down their throats and swallow them whole. Toucans also clap frogs, bats, mice. Basically, if it fits in their beak, it's getting swallowed. By the way, their beaks are serrated like kitchen knives, meaning anything that goes in there probably isn't coming out in one piece. And speaking of beaks, their beak is bigger than their actual skull. Their skeletons don't look any better. And because they use that huge beak to cool off, their beak is covered in a ridiculous amount of blood vessels, which is also why their beak is more than half their body. Also, that's what its tongue looks like, and its job is to shove food back down its throat. Which means if a baby bird or a bat manages to struggle its way to near freedom, that freakish tongue will only shove them back to their death. They also projectile poop, so if you have one as a pet, you'll be scrubbing rainbow-colored fruit poops off the wall.
I'll never look at Toucan Sam the same again. That's crazy.
Welcome to the New World Order. Canada and China just signed a new trade agreement where Canada is removing a lot of the import tariffs on Chinese EVs, and China is removing canola tariffs on Canada. Mark Carney is the first Canadian Prime Minister to visit China since 2017. And under the new trade agreement, Canada will be able to import 49,000 Chinese EVs per year at a 6.1% tariff rate. This is down from the 100% tariff rate it currently stands at. This is a huge deal for Canadians because Chinese EVs are not only better, but they are also cheaper. Recently, BYD surpassed Tesla worldwide in sales. It's the #1 electric vehicle maker in China. And while 50,000 vehicles is not a whole lot, it's just a sign of things to come. As the US continues to grow more isolationist, China is going to take over a lot more of these trading partners.
I bought a piece of the blood-soaked pillowcase that Lincoln died on. It's still completely saturated with blood. The doctor that used his finger to dig the bullet out of Lincoln's brain took the pillowcase as a souvenir, and then he cut it into swatches and gave it out. And he gave one to his daughter. A member of her family sold it to this guy, George, I forget his last name now, but he's like the world's preeminent Lincoln collector. And then it went down through his family, and then I bought it. I have 3 of Lincoln's hairs that I bought at auction from his head. Like, we do selfies with famous people now, and in an early earlier generation, people asked for autographs, but back in the 19th century, people collected the hair of famous people. So you would write a fan letter to someone, say, may I have some of your hair? So when they would get a haircut, these famous people would have the barber collect their hair and they would keep it with them to give out as souvenirs. So it was a woman from Illinois who wrote a letter to Lincoln and asked for his hair, and he sent her the hair and she divided it up, and I got 3 strands. I also have a piece of the gallows that the assassins were hung from.
But back then, I guess witchcraft and voodoo wasn't so prevalent, because if you give somebody your hair nowadays, man, you might get cloned. You might get some hoodoo or some voodoo put on you. Hey, you better keep all that stuff to yourself.
Both Charlie and Erica signed contracts. So there is the law of free will, and even the shadow government can't override our free will. And so Charlie, it was back in 2012 that I saw him signing these contracts, and he said, I thought I was just signing political documents to say, yes, I agree to these terms, and like, I'm ready to be sort of a leader or whatever. They sign documents all the time. And so he didn't really realize what he was getting into. And then his wife, Erica, also signed documents. And essentially it was hidden in plain sight of, you agree to sign up and sort of sign your rights and your freedoms away for fame.
Wow.
And he said every time that he sort of spoke to an agenda that they wanted him to speak to, he got more funding and he got more community outreach. So he said about 80% of what he spoke about was him. But then there was about 10 to 20% that was sort of funneled through him from this other group and organization.
Careful what you sign.
Absolutely.
What even is going on? I took off one day, and I come back to all this crazy, satanic even stuff. We'll get back to the satanic commercial that they put on the news in 1 minute, because what they're actually doing will scare the crap out of you. That is, if you're not protected. So Macron here has a eye, but it gets a lot crazier than just the picture you saw at the beginning, because one, geopolitically wise, but also after people were aware of his eye looking like that, he started wearing sunglasses to hide it later on. So why is he if he just got hurt, you know, like there was an incident, then why would he be covering it up with sunglasses? This is not 2010, where you could walk up with very obvious sinister things happening and no one would know about it. Unrelated, I wonder what got in his eye. And geopolitically, it's crazy because there's a Norvis Ordo Seclorum going on. We just heard about Putin saying that he might nuke Europe, and then this right here happens. People like to point out particular eyes, but I'm telling you, it makes no difference. Obviously, he's got hurt. Then this commercial, this news station, showed a satanic broadcast in the middle of this. Now, I'm gonna tell you just how crazy that is and why. This does not happen by accident. They, the news, had the feed for this. You can't just pick up someone's feed. This isn't a radio. Say I'm reaching, but it's an obvious fact that this was displayed on purpose. If you're a Christian and you know how powerful the name Jesus is, then you have no problem. That is, if you call on it. And with the information I'm about to put out in the next day or two, everything is going to get wildly different. So it's very important to remember that fact I just said.
In Australia, they invented this genius stop sign made of water. Since some truck drivers ignored the regular warning signs, instead of creating a hard physical barrier, they created a curtain of water onto which stop is projected. This creates an illusion of a solid wall that deploys when the sensors detect a truck that can't fit into a tunnel.
Hey, you know what? If we're being honest, that's pretty genius.
So scientists just did the impossible. They ran an experiment and reality itself broke down. So here's the fascinating story behind how one experiment collapses reality and you'll never see the world the same ever again. So this is called the Fraueger-Renner experiment. Here, there's 4 scientists with 4 perspectives doing one quantum test. Each scientist measured a particle and each followed quantum physics perfectly. But here's the kicker. They compared their notes, their realities did not match at all. And the craziest part is that they are all correct from their own perspective. So imagine that we're playing this video game and one person sees a red dragon versus another person sees a blue dragon. However, according to the rules of this video game, only one dragon is possible. Which means that even though 2 people are experiencing the same event, their interpretation of the event might cause them to live in 2 completely separate worlds. So the key takeaway from the Fraueger-Renner experiment is this. Facts are not absolute, truth depends on who's looking, and reality has no single owner. So your mind isn't just observing reality, your mind is also helping create reality for itself.
Look at the military. Did you like hear about the super soldiers and all that stuff?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I heard a little bit about that, yeah.
So the whole story is, the whole thing with Maduro in Venezuela, how they captured him was nothing like we've ever seen before.
I heard it was like some fucking Metal Gear Solid type shit.
Correct. So here's what happens. From beginning to end, from A to Z, it only took 2 to 3 hours tops. Capture, extraction.
Wait. Captured and then back to the crib?
Capture, extraction, everything, 3 hours tops.
Doesn't it take 3 hours to get there?
I don't even know how that works.
So they threw him in the fucking Stargate.
Basically.
They threw him in the portal.
Yeah, but the reports are crazy. So what they're saying is, so they interviewed a Venezuelan security guard from Maduro. And basically the security guard that worked for Maduro says this. He said it was only 20 guys that came in and took everybody out. It was about 20 guys and they took out about 200-300 guys.
How?
Like, that's one, right? But even before that, they were saying that their entire system went out, right?
EMPs?
Okay, hold on.
EMPs?
Yes. He said the entire system goes out. It gets hit with something, right? Sounds like an EMP, okay? Electronic warfare. Hold on.
Just saying.
So, gets hit, right? Everything goes out. Then the 20 guys go in. They said none of these guys were harmed at all, and they were firing with such precision. He was like, I've never seen it like anything else in my life. He was like, they were like firing like 300 rounds a minute. So then he says it took out about 200-300 guys. Only 20 guys.
Now we're in Marvel?
And then they hit him with some type of direct energy weapon.
This shit sounds like...
Swear to you.
This shit sounds silly.
No, it's crazy. He said the direct energy weapon, it was some type of sound wave type of thing, something that they've never seen before. It hit everybody. It put everybody on their knees. People start bleeding from their noses and vomiting right away.
So if y'all look at the picture of Maduro when he got captured, he had blood on his shirt.
He had blood on his shirt. So that gives way to what the security guard was saying. The shit was over in like 20-30 minutes.
How?
The full extraction was like 2-3 hours. And it can't be propaganda because people are saying, oh, what if it's propaganda? And here's why it's not propaganda. The military spends more money, trillions of dollars, just on their technology and upgrading weapons and all this other stuff. That budget is more than a lot of countries' GDPs. So they definitely have super soldiers. This sounds like some Marvel shit. This sounds like Winter Soldier, Captain America type shit. Swear.
This shit is turned into Metroid.
For real. I think that was a calling card as well because now word is getting around town. China, Iran, Russia, they're all hearing this now. They're like, hey, we got some shit.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out for real.
Definitely something to it. You know, I don't think that that's cap at all. I think that the weaponry that the U.S. has is definitely elite, top level.
I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us.
That's Alex Karp, the CEO of the AI tech company Palantir, joking about using drones to spray critics with fentanyl-laced urine. Now his company is deploying terrifying surveillance tools for ICE. Already, Palantir has billions of dollars in contracts across government agencies like the DoD, DHS, and HHS. And in early 2025, it was tasked to create a single searchable database with the personal information of every single citizen. ICE is using Palantir's Elite app to consolidate data from government agencies into maps of deportation targets, assigning a confidence score to a person's current address. Civil liberties groups say the tech violates Fourth Amendment warrant requirements. But that's not all. Recently, ICE has gone on a $29 billion shopping spree, purchasing tech that allows phone tracking without warrants, remote device hacking, facial recognition, and AI profiling. ICE's budget for 2025 makes the agency the 14th most well-funded military in the entire world, and they're being deployed on our streets. This is not about left versus right. The government is seizing on people's fear of immigrants, fear it has stoked for years, to take more power and expand surveillance and control over us. That's tyranny, and we need to come together to stop.
The real meaning of 369 isn't what most people think. John Keeley, an early anti-gravity researcher, used sound to produce extraordinary anti-gravity effects. During one of his demonstrations, a journalist watched as Keeley connected a wire from a belt he wore to a cast iron sphere weighing nearly 7,000 pounds. Through intense mental focus, Keeley caused the massive globe to slowly rise and float across the room. Then, after between two opposing pressures, inward gravity and outward levity, an idea also shared by Victor Schauberger. By vibrating matter at specific resonant frequencies, one can cause slight alterations in the local ether flow, canceling out the inward gravitational pressure and producing a state of apparent weight reduction.
It sounded kind of like he was saying gravity was more than just a theory. Well, you guys, that's another one in the books, man. Hey, I appreciate you guys for always stopping by and watching another one with me, man. Hey, if you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button. Smash that subscribe button. Join up, man. Sub up. We're trying to do 200,000 subscriptions this year. So let's make it happen. And I will definitely catch you on the next one.